if you've not used templates at all, you might be thinking, why should I use templates? Well, for one thing, they save a lot of time. If you have to write to someone or send an email or a text message, all you have to do is click on the history to create a new document, email or SMS message, and select a template. Now, we provide, or you create your own template library, and the idea is that you've got full template listing here of SMS messages, Word documents, emails, even Excel spreadsheets. Those are the four main types of template that you can use. And when you're using templates, you can see your recents. So as you begin to use them, your recents will build up, and your favorites can be pinned to the top so that you can quickly get to templates that you're using every day. Now, and any recents will show here. So once you start using templates, you'll save a lot of time, because all you need to do is click on the template and then generate the email from the template. Simple as that. Hit the template, hit save, and you've created an email. So it's massively faster than typing in the name, the subject, and everything else. And you can also include reference numbers into the subject of emails, which can be done automatically if you highlight an event before you create an email. And the reason for putting reference numbers is you can make your auto filing much more accurate, because it will file against a job, not just a customer, by having the job reference number in here. Now, where are templates? They're found in files, templates here. And there are two sections. One is templates and one is merge codes, because the whole point of using templates is if you can merge data in, you'll save even more time. So if we click on templates, you'll see I've got access to my template library, and I've got a whole series of folders. Now, I'm going to go from scratch, and I'm going to create a brand new folder, and I'm going to call it Masterclass. And doing a new folder is simply a case of clicking on that new folder icon, hitting save, and here we have a new folder. So this up at the top, it tells you here, if you hover over it, it should say create new folder, add new folder, give it a description. You can delete a folder as well, and there is our new folder. Now, if I wanted to add templates to that folder from scratch, we'll start with a Word template. And the thing to remember about templates is they have to exist somewhere in a Windows folder. They're not actually in LogicOffice. All your templates of any type are going to be in a Windows folder structure somewhere on your network. That folder structure should be backed up, so make sure you back it up, because you don't want to lose all your templates. Do not store it on your local PC if you're on a network, and make sure they're included somewhere in the directories. Now, one of the problems with using templates is you always forget where you've put them, and the way to get around that is simply click on any template you've already got. That one I've deleted, so we won't use that one. And if you open template directory icon at the top, that will actually open up your template folder. And in this case, I've got it stored somewhere. It doesn't really matter where it is, but it saves me navigating to it. You can navigate to it in Windows, but it's much quicker to just click on the folder, and then you can get to your templates. So if we were going to create a new Word template, we would open up Word and create a new document, and then start to put in the address. Would normally go at the top of the template, the name of a company if it's a company type of template. So let's show you how to get merge codes into documents and emails. We'll click on merge codes, and we have a listing of all the standard merge codes. There are lots of them, and so organization name is obvious. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to drag it down to my Word document. By holding the mouse down, I can just pop it into my Word document. Now, we don't recommend that you type in merge codes, because especially with emails, that can introduce strange characters which will upset the merging. The best way to do it is to drag and drop them from LogicOffice. If I want the complete address, I'll drag and drop that straight into the letter, and so on and so forth. Now, you can see how to do that, and I don't really want to go through dragging loads of things, because you can see the concept. If you want to create documents that have a graphical header so that you can create PDFs from them, then you'd need to put your headers and footers into your template. And I think most people know how to do it, but just in case you don't, in Word, you just go in and you insert a header and edit it. and then you can actually add things to it. For example, if I want to insert a logo, which is a picture, in fact, I can go to my desktop and I've got a logo I'm inserting. Now, if you're inserting logos into a document, make sure they're not massively huge. You don't want a graphic file of a megabyte, because every time you create a Word document, you're going to be wasting a lot of disk space. Basically, keep them small. You can resize them on Windows, but if you've got a large graphic, resizing it here will still be a large graphic. Make sure you keep these graphic files as small as possible so not waste disk space. One thing I normally do is I normally choose to hide my graphic behind the text, therefore I can move it around and I can then put in company addresses and so on. Now, to save going through editing all of that, I've created one that I did earlier, and that's going to be in my Windows folder here called New Template V1. So let's open that up and you'll see what I've completed, which has company address, date. A short date I've put in as well, because you can have two types of date formats. The salutation can be formal or informal. Then you've got the body of it, and you can put author and author role at the bottom. This means this template can be used by anybody, and their name and role within the firm or company will be seen at the bottom here. And so now we've got a template which we've saved. Now we want to save that template into our template folder here with all our other templates. If you really want to get organized, you can have folder structures within your template folder as well. Well, I haven't. These are all just thrown in because it's just a demo. But basically, now we need to register this template in Logical Office because it doesn't know it's there at the moment. So the way we do that is we go into templates, we choose Masterclass, we choose this add new template and complete the template, blah, blah. We choose the plus template. Right. Now you give each template a description which will appear in the template library. New client welcome 1, whatever it is, and we give it a little code. And the code can be anything, it's not really relevant. And so we now know what we're going to call it. We've got a code, and we need to just identify where it is. Now, there's two ways of doing this. You can navigate to the template using Windows folders, and I don't like that because it takes too long. All I do is I go to the template folders, and I drag and drop that into that box there, and it knows where it is. So I've now registered it, save it, job done. So now in my Masterclass folder, I've got new client welcome 1, and I'm happy. That's my first template. And of course, if I'm going to write to a client that letter, then I go in here, click on plus, go into my template library because I haven't used this one yet, and then double click it and hit save, and that's me writing a letter to the client, which will pop up in Word in a second. There it is, blah, blah, blah. Now you'll see this is the text. I've used 2 date formats just to show you can have 2 date formats. And the rest of it is just setting up the template. So that's setting up a Word template. If you need to change, and you will need to, I'm sure, the template, then going back to the template library, all you do is go in here, click on identify the template that you want. And there's 2 ways to edit the template. One is to click on this edit template icon. The second way is just double click on the template. It will open it up. You can then change it and save it. And it's as simple as that. So that's how to add and change a Word template. Let's go on to emails now. Firstly, we've got to create the email. Now, the best way to do it, in my opinion, is from Outlook. And I'm going to create a new email with a subject of welcome to Logical Office. We will put in a salutation, and again, I wouldn't recommend typing them, even if you know what they are. I would still go back to templates, merge codes, individuals, informal salutation, come back to Outlook to that, and just drop it in there. You may want to put a comma after it. And then you carry on and you create your template, and you can change the fonts. Now, one thing that's important to remember, if you see any red underlining in when you're creating, that means that the Outlook is thinking it's a spelling mistake. So where you get that, it'll be something like that, and it's a correct word, simply right-click, add it to the dictionary, because when you've got merge codes that it thinks are spelling errors, they won't work. So make sure you've got no red appearing in your emails, because you don't want to take any risks. And that's setting it up. Now, when you're setting up an email, there are two situations. Either you want to send it from yourself every time, which will be fine. Your default from will be whatever you're logged into in Outlook. But if you want to send it from someone else, you need to select who the other person is that you're sending it from. I'm going to leave this as demo for the moment. The only thing to remember about that is that in your Outlook, you have to have permissions on the network to send an email on behalf of someone else for obvious reasons of viruses and so on. But once you've done that, typically what we're doing is I'm either sending them from myself or from info@LogicalOffice if it's a kind of general mailer type email. Okay, so you format this. You can, of course, use signatures as well. I notice a lot of people don't use signatures, and I sometimes think maybe they don't know how to set up signatures. It's really easy, and everybody should be using signatures because it saves time. Just in case you don't know, this is how you do it. You go into File, Options in Outlook, you choose Mail, you choose Signatures, you then create, if you haven't got one, you create one by clicking New and you put in a name. Okay, in this case we've got demo, and then you paste in your logo and your text here into your signature box. Make sure they're in these two boxes so that any new messages and replies will create the signature, and that's all you have to do. And it's well worth doing it because it saves it makes you get more professional when you're generating output. So if you create a new email, you're always going to have a signature in it from Outlook. Now we've created an email and I've basically saved it. Now when you save an email in Outlook, it goes into your drafts. All right. Now this is one I did earlier. I've got this one. I'm still working on it. I can save that one. Welcome to Logical Office version 2. I can just hit save. And I prefer saving them in drafts. You can actually save as a .message file directly into your folder. And that's the alternative. For some reason, I prefer leaving them in drafts. And then what I do is I basically drag them from my drafts straight into my folder and sort it. And there I've got version 2 message in my template folder. So we've now shown that you've got to get your templates into your template folder so that they can be registered in Logical Office. Also, once you've put them into this folder, if you delete them or change the name, that's going to break the link because Logical Office is going to point to these. So be careful not to delete them or change the name in Windows because Logical Office then won't be able to find them. So now we've done that. We need to register this email in Logical Office. So I'm just going to shut that down. I'm going to go back to my template library. I'm going back to my Masterclass, and I'm going to click on my folder. Before you add a template, you always identify the folder first because you've got to say which folder you're going to put it in. And then click on the new template. And I'm going to put new welcome email in here, whatever description you want. You can change these descriptions later to whatever you like. A code just needs to be unique. It doesn't have spaces, so don't put any spaces in there. And then again, you can navigate to where you've put that email, or you can do it the lazy way, as I call it, which is going back to my templates and just dragging and dropping it in. If I had my template folder open. And then drag and drop it into that little box, and there's my new template. Simple as that. So it's a bit of a nuisance to register them, but you only have to do it once, and then you get the benefits of speeding up the whole thing later on. Now, if you're going to use text messages, then we use a .text file for text messages. So if I open up that one, you'll see it's just simply a hi, welcome to Logical Office, etc. And the way you create those is using the notepad. So all you do is type in your text message content. Now, because Notepad is a very basic type of editor with no background characters, you can actually type codes into this and it won't upset it because there's nothing. It's a very raw format. I'm not going to bother, but you just type that in, save it in your directory, and then you've got it. And then exactly the same process, just drag and drop it into Logical Office in the template library. So we've got a couple of templates here. Now, if you delete a template in Windows, you're going to get this message. The selected file is no longer at that location. In order to just get rid of that template within Logical Office, you just use the delete template option, and that gets rid of it. When you delete a template from Logical Office, it does not delete ever the template in the template libraries. It'll always be there. The only way you can delete a template from your Windows directory library is to go into your Windows folder and manually delete it. Once you've got your standard template set up, life becomes a lot easier because you can copy and paste them. You can edit them, as we've seen, just by clicking on the edit button. But if we wanted to create a new letter of a totally different subject matter, then I'm going to copy that template, indicate which folder I want to put it in. I'm going to keep it in Masterclass, and then I'm going to paste it. And this is going to be a new client welcome, or version 3 even. And I'll give it a code. It doesn't matter what the code is again. And I just save. Of course, you don't have to register it because it's copying and pasting it. So now I've got a new client version 3. You could have called it version 2. Again, you can change the name just like that and get it exactly as you want it. And you'll notice now it's an identical letter, but it's created a new letter behind the scenes. So we've now got a new letter called V3, because that's what I originally called it, even though I've changed it to V2. When it creates it, it will always stick with the name that you originally used. But it doesn't matter because it's pointing to that in Windows. So now you can happily edit this version using the edit or double click it, and you can change this to whatever you like, and obviously it won't affect the previous version that you've got on file. So that's how to clone templates. Exactly the same for emails. Just copy, go to wherever you want to put the email, indicate the folder, hit paste. You've got to give it a description. I'll call this new marketing email, and away you go. Doesn't matter what the code is, right? So copying and pasting makes life so much easier once you've got the template. So we now know how to create new templates. We know how to edit them. We know how to copy and paste them. Now there's a couple of things you need to know which are little wrinkles to do with Outlook, and I'll show you what they are. One of them is that if we create an email with an attachment, a PDF type attachment, which we're often going to do, then one of the idiosyncrasies of Outlook is that you can't add and change attachments to emails outside Outlook. It's to do with antivirus checking. So in the case of doing a new email, which I'll just call brochure attached, and I won't bother with all the rest of it because I just want to show you this one thing. And in this case, I'm going to put a welcome PDF on there. All right, and I'm going to save that. So that's now in my drafts, and I want to get that into the folder structure, so I'm going to put it into the same place as this. So I've opened up my folder using that, and I'm just going to put it in there, brochure attached, right? Date modified, get it to the top, there it is. Register it in Logical Office. I'm going to call it brochure attached. Really clever naming. BATT, whatever, and I'm going to just drop it in there, which is the way I like to do it, and that's that one file. No problem. Now I've now got a template with a PDF attachment, maybe more than one PDF attachment. Not a problem. The problem arises here. When I want to change it, I may go into brochure attached, open it up, do this, delete it, put in the second version, which is now welcome version 2, hit save, and I'm thinking, good, job done. Unfortunately, when I reopen that again, it's not changed it, all right? And that is a problem with Windows. It's not a logical office problem, it's a Windows protection problem. So what you need to do, go to your folder, all right, which is brochure attached folder, by clicking on that icon. Drag this back to Windows into your drafts, which is a real nuisance, but it's the only way I know of doing it. If you find a better way, let me know. So we're going to drag that back to our drafts folder in there. I've already got the first one, so I'll just delete the first one from there. And then you need to change it in Outlook. And if you change it to version 2 in Outlook, you have now got a new version, and then drag that back and it will replace the previous version. Now what you can do when you've got a previous version here, all you have to do in the template library is highlight it and then drag, this is a nuisance because I'm going to drag this to my Windows folder. I'm going to copy and replace it, and then I'm going to now have to drag it into Logical Office, all right, and save it. And that is unfortunately the only way that you can change emails with attachments. Bit of a faff, but it will work once you know how to do it. Right, so now we've got brochure attached is the one I want. We've got the second version attached. So worth knowing, because otherwise you could get into a bit of trouble with that. So that's covered across the top here all of the icons that you need to use to clone. There is another one as well. If you've got something in completely the wrong place and you just want to move it, then you can use the cut option. I'm going to cut that one from here, and I'm going to put it in this folder here and use the paste. And now it's disappeared from Masterclass and it's now in template. So it's copy and paste, cut and paste. Both of them work. So in this way, once you've got your first templates with your logos and everything in, you can then start firing away and cloning a lot more. Now, the next thing to talk about is the type of emails. Some customers have problems sending graphical emails. Now, when you start cutting and pasting graphics into this kind of email, you can get into trouble, because although you see it in Outlook, when it gets sent via a mail shop program, it can scramble things. We don't know why. It's something to do with Outlook, and it can be very tricky. HTML emails are filled with all sorts of code that you can't see. If you want to use graphical emails like this, which are, I'll open that one up, which have pictures in them, lots of links, and are formatted with boxes, you're going to have a real problem if you try and do that in Outlook. My recommendation is to get an email editor, HTML editor. There are plenty on the market. We use one called Mail Styler, and that's what we use to build those. I don't think I've even got it on this particular machine, but it doesn't matter. It's freely available. Mail Styler. It's not very expensive. I think you can pay about £100 and get a lifetime license for it. And that way you can have a very graphical email that is not going to be affected whether you send it manually or you send it via the mail shop program. And that is covering all the main basics. There are several types of template though, and this is getting into slightly more advanced. The types of template that we have are, for example, sales invoices or quotations. Now, if you don't use our sales and purchase ledger, don't have to worry about that, but you might want to do sales quotations regardless. So if I have a look under my sales folder, I have a sales quotation, and if you look at the template type at the bottom, you'll see that it is a sales quotation. Now, the template types, normally you don't have to worry about them. They're always going to be other or time bills, which again, time bills is only relevant to people using time billing with time recording. The invoice, credit note, and statement, they're only relevant to people using our sales and purchase ledger. However, quotation is for anybody who wants to do sales quotations. We have standard sales quotations. We work with our product file, and you build up product descriptions, quantities, and values when you do one. And I don't want to go into that too much. I just want to make you aware of it. So if I was actually doing a sales quotation for a client, I would go into my templates, go into sales, choose sales quotation, and you can have different layouts depending whether you're commercial or a firm of accountants. Choose the template you want, and then you can actually build a template from your standard description library of whatever it might be, just by clicking on products and adding them and so on and so on. Give it a title. If you've done that before many times, you can actually clone it, and then you can hit save, and that will create a formatted document. That's the way we do invoices, credit notes, and so on in Logical Office, and that will produce a very nice sales quotation. One of the clever parts about that is there's also an option within the template that if you're doing a lot of sales, if I go back to that particular sales template, you'll see at the bottom here, creates event type. And what you can do is you can have an option that every time you do a sales quotation, it will actually create a sales opportunity event, and it will actually pull the amount of the quotation into the event, so that later you can list all of your sales opportunities for all the quotations you sent out. So that's another little bit of advanced stuff. And further advanced stuff, which I'll mention so that you're aware of it, is that you can use third parties. So if you're writing to a previous accountant or some other bank, some other third party who was attached to the client record, then the letter will know that it's a third party letter. It'll know what third party name and address to put in, because you're not writing to the client, you're writing to the third party. That's quite clever. And the final thing that's quite clever, probably the most complicated one, is our paragraph options. With paragraph options, and I'll just briefly show you this, we have the ability to configure letters so that when you create them, it will ask a number of questions, and for each of those questions, there's a number of answers. And then the program will cut and paste internally when it creates the letter and actually create exactly the letter that you want. Downside is lots of setup. Upside is very, very quick to produce very complicated letters once you've done all the paragraph options. So that's a little bit of advanced information about templates that goes a bit beyond what I wanted to do today, but I think that's hopefully covered all of the basics for doing templates.